following is brought to you by TaskJet, the future of task management. Why do people get so charged up when they hear the word socialism? First, not a whole lot of examples where it actually works in today's society. And second, there's a lot of people who live in countries where this is adopted and they flee to America in droves. Look, it's an amazing concept if everybody has the same of everything. Everyone makes the same amount of money, there's no competition, there's no keeping up with the Joneses. But we all have to do different jobs, and some jobs are harder than others. That's a reality too. Should a secretary make the same amount as somebody performing surgery? We know the answer to that. So, how do you compensate people doing the hard job? How do you incentivize them to want to go into that profession and to do it? And what if somebody doesn't want to pull their weight? Because that's a reality. Because if that happens, the entire system breaks. You can't constantly have a small set of people picking up the slack for everybody else. And that tends to happen in most societies. Small percentage of people are really savvy and capable and take on lots of ventures and create a majority of jobs and wealth in this country. Now, should those people exploit others? Absolutely not. Should they give back at a higher rate? Absolutely. But they should also naturally experience a higher quality of life than other people. You're not going to convince savvy people in America to fall for an equal wage for everyone. And for government to be the decider of everything and the purveyor of all goods and services, that's not what the foundation of America is. And if you want to change it to that, there are other countries that have different constitutions, so to speak. So explore them. Now, redistribution of wealth is different and something that most Americans believe in, if not all. And the elitists are definitely not paying their fair share. And they devise a lot of schemes that keep the average person down. But calling somebody who makes $200,000 or $500,000, who lives in New York or California or Florida, in the most expensive places to live, an elitist, who should be taxed at 50%, 70% of their income, is totally absurd. So let's understand that even the top 5%, the top 2%, the top 1% is a very different category than the top 0.1%. That is a different stratosphere of wealth. When you're talking about billionaires, billionaire wealth and money, and changing the income tax rate does not affect those billionaires. Definitely not the way you think it does. Changing the income tax rate, you know who it affects? It affects local and small businesses, professionals who went to school for a large part of their life. So somebody who was willing to put in work at a younger age. They went to dental school, medical school, law school, they got their MBA. It's the owner of the local Italian restaurant that you frequent. It's the woman who refinanced her home to open a flower shop, who happened to make a couple $100,000, and they took lots of risks. Taxing those people at exorbitant rates is not going to solve everybody's economic woes. And all you're doing is furthering the gap because you make it that much harder for professionals who start earning a little bit of money to actually make realistic policy changes. Because small businesses are the backbone of society. And frankly, what the Constitution in America was founded on. The principles of being able to have freedom of choice and make your own way against tyrannical rule. And you could say, that's not relevant in today's times. Just be a student of history. This country was founded on a distrust of government because it happens over and over again throughout time. So the billionaires, they understand the tax code way better than you. And this is why they don't declare a whole lot of income. They offset it with investments. They pay a different rate called capital gains. And even then, they avoid it through all kinds of loopholes. Why should somebody who works 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week be taxed more than somebody who parks away money into a stock? Somebody who busts their tail gets taxed more than somebody who receives a passive investment on their money. And you'll get some economists who are really just shielding the billionaires who say, well, it will affect investments. That's bogus. These people have to put their money somewhere. Unless they're just going to put it in the bank and collect basically no interest, it's not going to happen. Who is protecting the investments and the strategies of people who don't have a whole lot of disposable income to be able to put their money into all kinds of investment vehicles. When the average American has to replace a roof that costs $20,000, what do they have to do? A lot of them have to pull money out of their savings in order to bear that expense. So we have to talk about taxing the net worth of elitists. And that's a little complicated because of the stock market and their ownership. But if someone's net worth went from 20 billion to 30 billion in 1 year because the shares of their public company increased so much, maybe that person has to be taxed on the $10 billion difference at pretty high rates. And if they don't have the actual cash on hand to be able to pay that tax and they're forced to sell some of their shares, maybe it's going to reflect the true valuation of the stock. If they have to pull their money out in order to pay their taxes, just like the average American has to, okay? The small business that has to take an extra line of credit out and hinder their business. And again, this shouldn't be a blanket rule for 99% of the population who is forced to pay on their net worth, where maybe they have a few $100,000 in an IRA. But for people who have achieved a certain stratosphere of wealth, who never have to worry about a bill in their life, call it an elitist stratosphere, they have to be paying more into society, and pressure needs to be imposed on them. And again, this is sort of why we have a gradual progressive tax, but it's totally aimed at something that the billionaires can avoid through loopholes. Okay, these big public corporations, they don't have billions of dollars and trillions of dollars without a great society functioning and without the masses to help them achieve that. So people at the bottom of the pyramid need to be protected, and they need every dollar that they can get their hands on in order to survive, because surviving in this country costs a certain amount of money to live. But the way to do it is not by taxing your small and local business owner. It's not aggressive enough for the really elite, okay? And that means that it's focused on the wrong type of tax. And if you change these kinds of laws, then you can lower the income tax for 99.9% of the population. And you could create a more leveled out, even capitalistic society that acts like a bell curve. Because in almost all things, there's a natural bell curve that takes place. You have your really hard workers and your outliers who make a whole lot of money. And you have people on the other end of the spectrum who maybe don't want to put forth a whole lot of work. And unfortunately, there's a luck element to it on both ends of the spectrum. But you have the bulk of people who have a nice balance in life, where the majority of the money is, the 80-20 rule. Right now, it's a pyramid in the sense that the top of the pyramid has almost all of the wealth in the country. 99% of the world is fighting for a very small percentage of wealth, land, and resources. That is not how it should be if you believe in the Constitution, in terms of every person being equal. Now, not everybody's habits are equal. We must understand that, but the value of everybody is equal. And there needs to be an adequate floor for every legal citizen. That means if you're paying into society. And there needs to be fair rules and a somewhat level playing field for people who want to take on healthy work ethic habits and improve the quality of their life for themselves and their family. This country was built on choice, the freedom of choice to pick what profession you want to go in and to create opportunity for yourself. This has been brought to you by TaskChat, the task management tool to simplify your life. TaskChatApp.com.